Good afternoon and welcome to SnapTech IT's webinar for the month of July 2026. My name is Ted Holsey. I'm Chief Revenue Officer with SnapTech IT and your host for today's event. Thanks for joining in for the live session. This webinar will be recorded and circulated to all registrants. You can always visit us on our YouTube channel for all of our content on demand. Today's topic is what's new with Google Gemini. I'm joined today let's see here. Let me get over there. I'm joined today by our marketing manager, Nathan Caldwell. Nathan, thanks for joining me and welcome to the webinar.
Happy to be here.
All right. Well, cool. Thanks, everybody. Do want to encourage you to ask questions as we go along. Nathan and I, we each have we're going to be very demo focused today. So while one of us is demoing, the other person will be monitoring the Q&A log and we'll be able to answer your questions on the fly. So thanks for joining in for the live session and let's get your questions on the table. Okay, one thing we always do in all of our sessions is we try to spend 1 minute just introducing who SnapTech is. SnapTech IT, we are a cybersecurity first IT service provider with operations in Atlanta, Georgia, Phoenix, Arizona, and the San Francisco Bay Area. Our philosophy is technology should solve problems, not create them. But when we come across prospective new clients, they often have technology challenges. Sometimes their existing providers letting them down. Sometimes they have let their technology and hardware and software grow long in the tooth and they're suffering the consequences of that. Or sometimes just management teams are losing sleep because they don't feel like they've made the adequate investment in cybersecurity defenses. We try to solve all those problems for new clients. We implement our proven process. Every single SnapTech client has a technology plan, a predictable IT budget, and a roadmap. We implement all of our best practices, which enables our clients to work securely wherever they are. And stuff will break. Technology, things break, right? And people need support. And so we also supply, of course, fast and friendly IT support when clients need it. But ultimately, we try to help our clients focus on getting back to business, focusing on your business and doing your business, and having the peace of mind that you have somebody looking after your cyber defenses. Nathan, we're getting a little bit of background noise, so let's maybe manage the mic a little bit. When clients get started with us, we either engage with them in fully managed IT or co-managed IT. Fully managed IT is going to mean if there's nobody on your staff who actually has IT on their badge. You need a fully outsourced solution. Co-managed IT, on the other hand, is for organizations where there's maybe an IT department, a team, an IT manager, an IT director in place, but they need help. And we come alongside organizations like that and put together a bespoke IT outsourcing solution for them. So clients come to us. When they come to us, we either usually get started by doing a cybersecurity risk assessment, or now more commonly, we also do an AI jumpstart, which is designed to help organizations really accelerate on their AI journey. So let's look at today's agenda. One thing I think is always important to do is just talk about kind of the licensing and pricing environment, because it can be confusing. Nathan and I do a lot of these webinars, and it's kind of a full-time job keeping track of what's happening with all the different pricing and packaging for things. So we will touch on how Google Gemini is priced and packaged. We will, and then what we're going to look at specifically is Nathan and I are going to divide and conquer and look at some of the most advanced capabilities in Google Gemini, especially as it intersects with Google Workspace. And then we'll take your questions as we go along and then wrap up and probably have a little bit of time for dedicated Q&A. So that's a look at the overall agenda. So you really can't, I think, for most businesses, talk about Google Gemini without talking about Google Workspace, because the two really work in concert. And Gemini is really a solution that makes a heck of a lot of sense for organizations that are maybe already using the Google Suite. Now, when we speak of Google Workspace, this is things like Gmail, Google Meet, the calendar application, Google Drive, Docs, Sheets, and Slides. So if your organization is on this suite of applications, Gemini is a really strong fit. Now, Google's done something pretty aggressive and interesting, is they're basically offering Gemini as a free included feature with Google Workspace, which makes it extremely affordable to get the very powerful capabilities that are available here. If you contrast what Google is doing with what Microsoft is doing, Microsoft, if you're a Microsoft 365 commercial client, at least in the United States, for most companies, it's about a $18 to $19 additional charge to be able to use Microsoft Copilot. Google has taken an entirely different approach. They're baking Google Gemini in very deeply into the suite, and it comes pretty much standard. So if you there is a minimum threshold, so like the business starter pack is kind of an exception to the rule, but if you Workspace Business Standard, Gemini, all the key elements of Gemini that you'd want to be using work seamlessly with the whole suite. So for $14 per user per month, it's a pretty killer deal to be able to get into a cloud productivity suite that is fully AI enabled. So that's now the other thing is you can go out and license Google Gemini just alongside whatever you might be doing from a cloud productivity suite perspective. And in general, you'd probably want to look at the $20 a month plan, which is Google AI Pro, because it has the right capacity, has all the features you'd want to use, and will integrate with many of the traditional Google applications. So that's it on kind of licensing and that sort of thing. Let me take a moment and just kind of ask you, Nathan, are there any questions that we've gotten thus far?
No questions just yet. One thing to say though is, Ted, you're highlighting how you would get Google Gemini if you have Google Workspace. But also, I think that, you're going to see in today's demos too, especially something that I'm going to show, is that even if you don't have Google Workspace, it's to your advantage to understand how Gemini shows up and how to engage with Gemini. Because there's a few spots where Gemini shows up in the whole Google world that even the average everyday person who doesn't have a workspace account is still going to see it there, and you still want to know how to use it. We actually do have a question that just came through. Which licensing options not Google Workspace users are considered enterprise?
Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, from a positioning perspective, if I just go back to sharing that particular screen, let's go back here. The reality is that they're not really using the term quote unquote enterprise. And so it's more about so they're just not using, Google's not using that terminology. So what we would direct you to is, if you're not on Google Workspace, this is the rate card you should consider. You basically have kind of like a toe in the water. You have the freemium option, you have the toe in the water option, and we don't have the full like feature list here, but generally speaking, kind of like the traditional full-featured commercial offering from ChatGPT or from Microsoft or from Google is like in that $20 price point. And then there's always these power user packs, which is either $100 to $200 a month, which really gets you extra tokens and credits and capacity to do really powerful applications. But there's not really something that's considered kind of quote unquote enterprise. So
And then
Yeah.
sorry, there was a follow up to that. It had been cut off, but talking about security precautions for like user and access controls.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a whole rate card for Google Workspace that you should familiarize yourself with um, around kind of the advanced capabilities in Google Workspace. Like here's, you know, there's like two tiers in Google Workspace above Business Plus that have additional kind of security capabilities. But those are really more relate to Google Workspace in general. And it's stuff like retention, integrated backup, data governance, legal hold. There's all these like traditionally what you consider kind of enterprise grade cloud application features. And those are available in the higher Google Workspace accounts. Really what you want to look at with they're really more there's not really anyway, that's where you need to look for a lot of the security and data governance considerations. And then the biggest consideration you really have with AI is, am I on a paid model and is my data grounded? Meaning, are my Google Docs, my Google Sheets, my Gmail, my chats, my recordings, are those all grounded and not being used to train the large language model at Google? And the answer is if you're on a commercial plan, they're protected. And so that's just something you need to keep in mind. So I'm going to stop sharing here and then kind of just go back, Nathan. But are we kind of ready to go into like demo mode here now?
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go over here and Nathan, I'm still getting a little bit of the wobbly background noise. So
I'm sorry about that. I'll stay on mute unless I have something to say.
okay, cool. Let's go. All right. Where are we? Okay. Wait, no, that's not it. Hold on a second. Bear with me. All right, there we go. All right. So, all right. So what we're going to do is Nathan and I are going to divide and conquer and talk about some of the different capabilities inside of Google Gemini. So the very first topic we want to kind of look at is what was previously called Notebook LM. That was the historical name, and now it's called Gemini Notebook. So right up here in the left, you see that the naming convention has changed. When you're just out talking to people, you're going to find that most people still call it Notebook LM. But here's what Notebook LM is all about. So Notebook LM is only accessible if you have a commercial Gemini account. So we are in a business standard Google Workspace account that has Gemini, and therefore, because of that, we have access to Gemini Notebook. Where Gemini Notebook is most commonly used is it basically, the most common use case is you use it to create like an audio podcast of your content. And so what you can do is over here, like, so in this user interface, what we've done is Notebook LM or Gemini Notebook, it does take like 5 to 10 minutes to render over a normal amount of content. So we're not going to do that on a live demo basis today, but the ultimate deliverable that most people kind of have kind of a jaw-dropping experience and really find a lot of utility in this is Notebook LM will create an audio file for you, and it will create a podcast-style discussion on complex topics. So you can take a whole host of PDF files, white papers, research reports, and upload them into your sources over here. And then you can ask Gemini Notebook to create a podcast file for you, and it'll create a, you know, this one created a 27-minute deep dive on this particular book called The Challenger Sale. And so, and what's beautiful about the Gemini Notebook is this podcast style is, it's super easy to kind of like to digest complex topics. And just like audio content, like a podcast, it's something you can do while you're out on your walk, or you're at the gym, or you're doing the dishes, or you're doing some sort of multitasking thing, or driving and you're on your commute. And you can download this file. It's pretty simple to do. You just download the file. And you can listen to it, and it's a very compelling way to digest complex topics. And you can make a notebook about virtually anything. The other thing you can do is you can also leverage these other capabilities to make things like flashcards or quizzes. So if you have any students in your household, that's good for that. If you're personally training for any sort of kind of professional certification and you're having to do your own studies, a lot of these quizzing tools are very valuable. And the other thing you can use this for is really just complex research. If you're doing a lot of complex research and you need to digest a bunch of content, you can use the things like the mind map to create you kind of a map of all the complex topics that get presented in the content. So in this particular case, one thing you can do is you can sometimes leverage Gemini to create like a list of good sources on a particular topic and then load them in here. Or if you've already done your research and you say have like 6 or 7 PDF files that you want to download, you can upload those. You can add additional sources by clicking on add sources, and you can just go upload files. You can pull in different files. You can, you know, load content from your local machine, or you can load it directly from Google Drive. You can load in YouTube video content as well. And all of that gets dropped into your sources, and then you ask it to create this podcast style discussion, which is incredibly compelling. So Nathan, any questions on Gemini Notebook?
Not questions, but just like another comment. Like, this is so exceptionally helpful, especially when you're thinking about like employee onboarding and wanting to create very interactive or usable materials that go beyond just reading documents. And so to give people an opportunity to listen to a podcast where it's two people discussing your company core values, or it's two people discussing all of your key offerings for clients, things like that, to really think outside the box of what else could we use this for to make our materials and our education more digestible for the people that we need to bring up to speed on these things.
Nathan, that's a great point. So, I mean, the use case of creating interactive content that is in different modes. I mean, people learn in different ways, and people will often learn the best when you kind of mix up the modes. I mean, if you have somebody read something, that's one thing. If somebody attends a webinar broadcast, that's another. But this is another medium that you could do to take a complex subject. You could take, for example, you could produce a notebook audio recording about your company culture and have like a 15-minute dialogue about your company culture. That would be like a really good use case. Or if there's some other aspect that's really unique about your company approach to how you attack the market, your differentiation, you can do it that way. I mean, in this particular case, this book, the Challenger Sale, is a book that my team did as kind of a book report and a book discussion last quarter. And I was to be totally frank, I was blown away in listening to this 27-minute discussion of the kind of the key takeaways of this book when I was out on my walk the other evening and prepping for today's session. Just super. I mean, we spent an hour together as a team talking about this book live on a Teams meeting. But this 27, if we had a new person join the team tomorrow and I said, hey, in your first month on the job, you need to read this book, I could then assign them this podcast as like a discussion item after they've read the book, and it would be a great training tool. So Nathan, that's a really good point. Okay, so Gemini Notebook, or formerly called Notebook LM, really cool research, training, content, knowledge tool that's in the Gemini suite. So let's change gears. Something more conventional is, one of the big advantages of Microsoft 365 with Copilot is the really deep integration with AI functionality and the rest of the traditional Office suite, things like Outlook and your calendar and Word and Excel, and Google is not sitting still on this opportunity, and they're really creating very deep integrations between how Gemini works and the rest of the Google Workspace experience. And so we just want to kind of show you some of that. I'm just going to show you a very quick task. Is one thing you can do is you can use just very basic language to tell Gemini to go do a task for you in Google Workspace. And so in this case, I'm just going to say, hey, block my calendar for this Friday morning from 9 to 10:30 for my dentist appointment. And I'm just going to go send it. And what you see is Gemini is already, deeply integrated with my calendar, and it just, within a lickety split, it went in and created this appointment. Now, to show you, let's not take Gemini's word for it. Let's go over and look at my calendar and see. There's my dentist appointment from 9 to 10. Let's see here. That's kind of weird. I'm noticing a bug though. Let's just try to fix this though. Isn't the appointment supposed to be until 10:30? Can you fix this? This is one of the realities. Is let's see here. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go over and double check. Okay, there, it fixed it. So, a somewhat inexplicable small bug, but anyway, what you see is that natural language instructions to go do something in your Google Calendar is pretty compelling. Now, the other thing is one of the killer apps, in our opinion, of what's happening with AI today is, I think when you saw it during the pandemic, during the COVID pandemic, I think what happened is video conferencing became mainstream. Literally almost every business meeting today, whether it's internal or external, has some sort of video conferencing capability. And I think in the age of AI, the other thing that's now become standard with video conferencing, whether you're using Google Meet or you're using Teams or you're using Zoom, is everybody wants that meeting recorded, number one. They want that recording to create a transcript, number two. And number three, they want to leverage AI capability to do a recap of that meeting for things like capturing action items, or sending out meeting minutes, or maybe going back to the tape, so to speak. Sometimes you'll have a discussion with a colleague or a debate about a certain topic, about what was said in a certain meeting. And more, just like in the World Cup soccer, they go to the VAR, they go to the instant replay, or in professional U.S. football, they go to the replay tape. More and more, we as colleagues in a work setting will go back to the tape and want to view the tape. And so, what's really cool about Gemini today is, all of this functionality is now built in. So yesterday I did a test of, just a meeting with Google Meet, and number one, it recorded the meeting, and by default, so Google, without any extra charge, Google Meet allows you to record the meeting, and then because it has the recording of the meeting. So here, here's I just clicked on that particular meeting, and I'm just going to play it, and you're not going to hear necessarily the audio here, but basically, this meeting, I did a little test, and then I joined the call from a different room, and I did some additional discussion. So I joined as an additional participant, but Google Meet records it. It creates a transcript of the meeting by default. And so I have a recording, I have a transcript, and then I also have Notes by Gemini, which is my AI-enabled recap of the meeting. And you just click on here, and immediately what happens is the recap of the meeting spawns in a Google Doc, and then I have a summary. Now, this was a 6-minute meeting with me talking to myself, so the content that's captured here is not terribly exciting, but what you see is that when you have Gemini enabled with Google Workspace, you get all of that cool functionality. And I often argue that this is one of the most fundamental ways AI is changing the workplace today, is that in every organization we saw it in our own organization, but every organization that has a capable tool added to their cloud collaboration suite, every meeting is now getting recorded. People behave differently with meetings because meetings will move ahead if somebody is missing, because there's going to be a recording and a recap and a transcript. More and more we go and leverage those tools, those transcripts and recaps and recordings after the fact on meeting. So the way people are using meetings is fundamentally changing, and it's become kind of one of the most useful tools, in my opinion, like one of the killer apps, I would say, in these platforms. Like, for example, if I were the business decision maker in a company that was on Microsoft 365, one of the most compelling reasons to add Copilot would be meeting recordings, transcripts, and AI recaps, because it's so fundamental and valuable. With Google and Gemini, it's fully integrated and fully functional. Okay, so Nathan, I don't know if there's any questions about meetings and transcripts and recaps.
Oh, nope, no questions right now there.
Yeah, all right. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so my last topic before I hand it over to Nathan is I want to talk about Google Gems. One thing, just to give kind of a little orientation, a little bit, is in a Google environment, you can either think about Mail, Gmail, or Google Drive as kind of your home base. And what you see is that whether you're in Drive or you're in Gmail, Gemini is very much front and center, right? So Gemini is available to scan your email, search your email. Oh, and I think one of the things I wanted to show, right, Nathan? Thanks for one of the things I wanted to show about transcripts and meetings is one of the things that I did in that test recording is I gave like the first 3 or 4 lines of the Gettysburg Address. And I said 7 years ago. And one of the things you can do, if I just search for 7 years ago, what you see is that it is able to scan all of my documents, and it found basically from the transcript of the test meeting I did yesterday, it found the July 22nd transcript of that meeting, and found where I used, used a couple lines from the Gettysburg Address. And so it's very capable. Nathan, the background noise is wobbling quite a bit. It's very capable in terms of searching like the full text search of your meeting recaps. So anyway, that's just another little detail. Okay, the last thing I want to do before I turn things over to Nathan is I want to talk about gems. And so Google Gemini, the way gems work is one of the most important things with AI today is they call it context grounding. That's the technical term. But one of the big struggles with AI, of course, is often when you ask a prompt or a query, the AI will go to the large language model and kind of incorporate the entire web into the context of the potential search. And that's often not what you want. Often you want to constrain your prompting to a narrow set of documents that are highly canonical or highly relevant to the work you're doing. So if you're doing a piece of research and you've already done some desk research and you've gathered together like 10 files on your topic, and now you want to use AI to interact with them, that's a really good use case for GEMS. So let me just show you, for example, how this would work. So here we have this gem called a solar gem demo, and what you can see is you can add, if you edit this, you can add more files. So what I've done is I ganged up a bunch of PDFs related to solar research here, and I uploaded them, and I wanted to make sure that the interactions I had with this content was exclusively grounded to these 18 solar reports. And so here you see it says a combination of 18 top solar reports. And so I'm just going to ask it a question, and I'm going to actually click on, because I already ran this, but I'm just going to ask it to summarize the key trends in solar in 2026. And so the AI is going to do the analysis and create this nice little abstract for me based upon only those 18 files. Okay, so this is really important because there are problems with hallucination with AI. There are problems, which is sometimes you get kind of an overly inclusive response to the work you're doing. Sometimes you really want to just have a use case where you're only asking questions about a particular file in question. And there's a lot of other use cases beyond research. So, for example, and Nathan and I cooked up this little example, and here we created a fictitious employee manual for 7-Eleven. Okay, and so if we go back and just show you how this is potentially edited. So what Nathan and I did is we created a fictitious employee handbook, and we uploaded it here. And so that's the first thing, is we've programmed the knowledge into the gem. And so if you're trying to provide your workforce like an interactive tool to go over all of your employee manuals and that sort of thing, you want to only make sure it's working on your employee manual. And so just to show how this little test might work, we have we just let's put in a fake prompt here, or like a potential prompt about the 7-Eleven employee manual, and say, can I drink straight from the Slurpee machine? And let's see what it says.
It's the question we all want to know, Ted. If you work at 7-Eleven, you think, hey, I got to have privileges to drink straight from the Slurpee machine.
I think Nathan might be one of the few people who ever has this struggle when he's at a 7-Eleven. But it is an interesting, it does make for an interesting demo. But so we put in the prompt, can I drink straight from the Slurpee machine? And it comes back and says, no, absolutely not. According to Section 11, the Slurpee behavior standards in the team member handbook, direct consumption from the Slurpee dispensing nozzle is strictly prohibited. Employees must always dispense the Slurpee liquid into the approved sanitary 7-Eleven cups, paper or plastic cups. So you see it constrains the context and files it's going to use, and it gives you an answer that is directly based on the content and context you gave it. So let's look at another example. Let's then ask it a different question. And here we're going to say, when will the Masters of the Universe movie be released on Amazon Prime? And let's see if this gem will actually respond to this question. And it says, I'm sorry, but the 7-Eleven help agent, I can only provide information contained in our 7-Eleven team member handbook. Because the information regarding the movie release dates is not included in the handbook, I'm unable to answer this question. And so, of course, this is another cute example of we're having some fun with this technology. But again, what you see is that if you could think of the real world applications of where you've programmed a gem for some business communication or internal communication challenge, if you leverage the gem and you leverage the context grounding functionality, then it will only look at the content you've actually given it, which has a lot of really practical use cases. So that's how gems work.
Yeah, Ted, if you don't mind, go back to the settings of that particular gem where you edit it. Yeah,
Edit. Yep. Here we go.
and so we want to highlight real quick too, just how simple and straightforward and quick it is to create these custom gems. This is way faster than building a custom GPT in ChatGPT. Also notice under the instructions specifically, I said in that instructions, do not provide answers outside of our employee handbook. So we are putting in some restrictions here to answer only what's in that document, only reference that document. And so this is very important to call out because there are many times that you want to restrict the use case of AI. You want to restrict its focus so that, like Ted said, it doesn't hallucinate, so that it doesn't even go out and pull information out from the general web and bring it into your answer, especially in this context where it's an employee handbook. You want it to be very specific, only include the information that's written in that document. And so I'm sure you can think of many other examples where you would want that kind of restrictive capability. And the reason why we did that silly example of asking it, like, when will a movie be released, is to illustrate that that restrictive nature is indeed working. It's not going up because it would be able to find that answer easily as an AI tool out there on the web. By the way, the answer is it's already on Amazon Prime if anybody wants to watch the movie. It's fantastic. It's hilarious. It's a lovely little jaunt and very retro and fun. So now that you've gotten my official movie review of Masters of the Universe, I'm going to share some demos on Google Gemini. And so let's go ahead and I'm going to share my screen and allow me to pick the right screen here. So, I threw in a little tidbit earlier where I said, even if you aren't a Google Workspace customer, that you should figure out how to use Google Gemini. Because where Google Gemini is showing up for everyone right now is in Google Chrome. And so if you take a look at my screen, you can see very top right of the browser, you have Ask Gemini. Now, here's where I want to describe something important that you want to pay attention to. Even though this Ask Gemini is available to everyone, whether you have a Google Workspace account or not, if you do not have the Google Workspace account, you aren't paying for Google Gemini, and it's just free and showing up there for you, it is learning from your queries. Whereas if you do have the Google Workspace account or you're paying for Gemini, then it will not train the broader LLM Gemini on your queries. Okay. Now, on the free version, there is a setting where you can go in, you can tell it, hey, don't learn from my queries, but then you lose functionality as well. It won't even remember your search history. So the best bet is to have a paid for account so that you maintain your privacy in that way. But I just want you to know it is there and it's available to everyone. So this is one of the ways to interact with Gemini. And I'm going to show a couple other ways to interact with Gemini, but let's start here in the Google Chrome browser because this is where the majority of the world is going to encounter it. Google Chrome is a very, very popular browser. And so I've gone to a website here. This is our actual HubSpot account where I've been working on our lead scoring, where we track, if people engage with us, give them a certain amount of points. That way we know how engaged they are. I'm going to actually, though, ask Gemini a question. And so when I click on the Ask Gemini button up here to the top right, Gemini pulls up, asks me, how can I help you today? And then from here, I'm going to prompt it. And Ted, are you seeing a bit of a lag in my screen right now?
No, I mean, it seems pretty, no, I'm not.
Okay,
It seems
excellent.
to be snapping right along, so.
Okay, well, wonderful. So maybe it's just me then. All right, so this is super helpful because you can get to a website, a page, something where you're like, hey, I don't know what I'm looking at, or there's a whole lot here that I don't understand. Rather than going off and Googling it and trying to get an answer, you can open up Gemini right now in the side, and I'm just going to ask it, what's wrong with my HubSpot lead scoring? While it's taking a look at the page that I'm on. And so it's taking a look at it. It's going to examine this page. It's going to gather some details, and then it's going to spit back some answers for me. And here we go. It's talking about some capping conflicts with the points. It's talking about some extreme penalties that we have in there. It's talking about geographic rules, redundant or conflicting object rules. And now Ted is looking at this and saying, Nathan, you're in charge of the HubSpot lead scoring. And now you're exposing all of the mistakes and all of the poor job you did in setting this up. And I walk around with some humility where I say I don't have all the answers, but by golly, I'm going to seek out the right answers and I'm going to do my best. I'm going to give it the old college try to fix these things. And so this helps me. And so I just wanted to give that as an example. Let me show another use case where you might want to put it to work. I have my LinkedIn profile here. I could pull up my LinkedIn profile and I could ask Gemini, what should I do to fix my LinkedIn profile? And now, if you went to Google, that's a generic question. But because you have the web page open and because you're asking Gemini off to the side and you hit submit, it knows what you're getting at. It's going to look through some things. It says that I'm doing pretty good with it, but I should tweak a bunch of stuff. And so this is super helpful. Now imagine you do this on each of your own web pages, on your website. And all of a sudden you have an expert beside you that's going to help you make improvements. And especially too, if you're visiting a website where it's very complex information and you want a buddy alongside you that you can ask it questions and really speed your understanding up and get some better context, Ask Gemini, super powerful tool off to the side. And Ted, I hear you typing. So are you adding a few things to our review that you're going to give me?
Okay,
All right.
sorry.
No, I'm just teasing. I'm teasing. Okay. I want to show a couple other places where Gemini shows up. And so if we're in Google Drive, you're going to notice, hey, we got a bunch of files here. And off to the side here in Google Drive, and allow me to just resize so I get the little three dots here to the side. So we have a dish, it's an image, it's a recipe, or it's a picture of a recipe. So this is where you can engage with Gemini as well. This is a new feature. If you click on the more actions off to the side here, a little menu drops down and you have Ask Gemini. Here's something very important you need to realize about engaging with Gemini here on this Ask Gemini button. It will limit, I'm going to go ahead and click on it, but it's going to limit anything you ask Gemini to just that file. So if you were to pull up a file that's a long, a whole bunch of text, it's a PDF or whatever, you can limit it to just asking questions about that one file. So I could ask Gemini, what's the recipe for this dish? And what you're going to see is it's probably not going to come back with much because that is just an image of the food. It doesn't have the recipe built into that image, but it can figure out, oh, no, it did a lot better than I anticipated. Okay, so this is different than what I have experienced in the past, where it was limiting to just that file. So we're going to go ahead and jump over to typically, this is so funny, Ted, when demos don't work the way that you test them and they actually do something. Normally, it was just pulling from that file and only answering questions specifically about the file we were highlighting. But there's another way that you could engage with Gemini and accomplish the similar outcome. And so if you're in the Gemini app and you hit the plus button, you can either upload files or you can add them from Drive. And so we're going to go ahead and add it from the Drive just to show you how you could do this. And so here's that same image, that dish. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to insert it. And then I'm going to ask Gemini, well, what's the recipe? All righty, here we go. And now it's going to take information from that image that we have and also its intelligence to go out to the web to do some research. And it's going to come back and it tells you what it is, it tells you the ingredients, and it tells you the instructions for this. Okay, so there's another way that I want to show you how you could engage with Google Gemini. And I want to close just a couple of browsers to give my computer a tiny bit more speed here. And I'm actually going to mirror my cell phone right now. And so, Ted, are you seeing my cell phone right now?
I am.
Okay, marvelous. So this is the Gemini app, and I have it pulled up on my iPhone. And if you look down at the bottom, there's a plus sign. That's where you can go ahead and get some different files and interact with it. You can also type in your question. You can use the microphone to do voice to text. But what I want you to see is off to the right, these three lines that look like audio wave files. If you click on that, that is Gemini Live. And so you can see down at the bottom that Gemini is listening to me. So I'm going to say, hey, Gemini, are you listening to me? So right now, just so you all know, right now I could hear that in my headset. Gemini was talking back to me, but you're just seeing the transcript. But I want to show you how this can be a super helpful assistant, especially if you're in the mode of like, man, I need to get through a ton of stuff on my to-do list. My brain's all over the place. I need to get a bunch of stuff done. I just want to talk it out loud. So I could tell Gemini right here, it's still listening to me. Gemini, book a meeting for me and Ted Halsey next Thursday at 3 p.m. Get his email address out of my Gmail account. Did you send that invite to Ted? All right, thanks so much. So Ted, let me know, did you get that?
Let me just double check. I'm going to look on mobile. And this would come from your Gmail account?
Yeah, it should come from my Gmail account.
I'm not seeing it yet. Um, um,
And it would have gone to your Outlook calendar.
and what time is the meeting again?
I think I said 3 p.m. next Thursday.
I'm not seeing it come through yet, but remember, like we're doing email security scanning, so a 30-second to 2-minute delay is not uncommon. But in any event, I mean, pretty killer.
Yeah.
On mobile device, asking it to fetch an email address and set up the meeting on your calendar.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can think of a whole bunch of other uh, scenarios too, where you even like dictate it and say, "Hey, send me an email to remind me for this or that." So I have it on my calendar already, Ted. I'm looking at it. No, here's the problem. So it did create it on my calendar here, but it did not add you as a guest. And when I was demoing this earlier, it was able to do that. And so again, just like you had shared before, Ted, like the calendar issue of it only went till like for an hour instead of till 10:30. This was an issue here. So anyway, check your work. Don't rely on AI for final draft always. But just wanted to highlight that. All right. We have just a few minutes left. I want to go ahead and show something that I actually did um, a little bit earlier because I wasn't sure how long it was going to take to process this. So allow me to just show you a prompt that I did earlier where, um, you know, uh, Gemini is really great at image creation. It's also doing a lot better at video creation. And so the prompt that I gave it was, hey, create a 20-second video promoting this webinar recording. And this was a webinar we did a month or so ago where Ted and I took the same type of theme. We looked at Copilot and we asked, what's new with Copilot? And then I said, include the link. All right, and it didn't take very long, and it came back with a pretty good video. And I don't know if I can share sound from this or not, so I'll just hit play. Let me know if you hear the sound, Ted.
Yep. We're not hearing the sound, but the video is.
All right. Well, we didn't get the
we didn't get the
audio
sound,
coming through.
but pretty
Like
what was that? 10-second spot or 15
yeah,
second spot?
10-second spot. But here's what I want you to see, okay? Webinar, what's new with Copilot? Got the title right. That is the actual YouTube link for our recording that I asked it to do. This QR code is not right. It threw it in there like a prop almost, but the QR code doesn't take you anywhere. So I would need to ask it to remove that QR code. But I'm going to hit play again, and I want to pause. So this is pretty good that it's jumping from shot to shot because it keeps people's attention. But I want to highlight this little clip right here. Okay, take a look at this. It threw in Copilot, what's new with Copilot. It's showing the PowerPoint outline. So it just makes it kind of nice that it's not just a fake AI talking head person, but it's actually putting in some imagery that makes sense for the context of that video or that webinar. All right, so then the last thing that I wanted to show, it goes back to the power again that a lot of people tout for Gemini, which is multimodal. And so I'm going to go back to drive .google.com. And the idea of multimodal is that it's great at reading any kind of file. And so you could have a PDF, and we're going to show this PDF. And this is chapter 3 from high school history textbook. Ted has been studying history, going back to school, getting his GED. And no, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. He's been helping his son. Everybody calm down, calm down. All right. So we're going to open this. And actually, I want to go to Gemini itself. And so I showed you where it is in our drive. And so I'm going to open it, add it from drive. And here's chapter 3. Let's go ahead and insert it. And then I'm going to ask it to create a 10-question quiz. Create a 10-question quiz to help study for this chapter. So the reason why this is powerful is because you can pull in any document and then ask it to create anything. You could get a transcript from a webinar or a meeting that you just conducted, or an interview with a client that you have, and put the transcript in here and then ask it to create a blog from that. Or it could be anything else. And so what you then have is this capability for it to, now the power of this, and the reason why we're talking about this multimodal piece, is that oftentimes a PDF is difficult to read or render. You have to push it through some other source before it becomes readable, and then gives you the ability to interact with it. But right from the get-go, Gemini is capable of reading it, interacting with it, and then producing something. Now, when I've done this in demos or in practice rounds before, it never took as long as it's taking right now. That's just the way it goes sometimes, folks. So, but that was the last thing that I was going to showcase, Ted, from my my demo list. And I don't know. Yeah, like I said, I don't know why it's just taking so stinking long. This is fun. Let's see. Here we go. I've done it before, and so I'll click on a previous one where it went ahead and did that, created the whole quiz, and then you can actually open it in a new tab. You could pull up you could share it via Drive for the quiz, and then also you can go through and it gives you the answer key as well. So pretty cool. And awesome capability to be able to just use any kind of documents with Gemini and Google Drive. So that's about it for me.
Okay, yeah, so Nathan, great job. Yeah. We want to end on time. I'm going to go ahead and just share. So we're out of time, folks. We like to start on time, end on time on these things. And so thank you for joining in for the live session. We were able to handle a handful of your questions that came through. That's great. So if you're interested in meeting with an AI expert from our team, go ahead and use the QR code on the left. Also, next week, Nathan and I will be back talking about Claude AI for Business. And go ahead, if you want to register for that session, you can use the QR code on the right. And with that, we'll wrap and look forward to seeing all of you on a future SnapTech IT webinar. Have a great day. Take care now.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.